What are today's local SEO ranking factors? They are changing regularly, and we have some surprises. We're talking local SEO with Darren Shaw today on The Edge.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Strategics. This week's featured guest is Darren Shaw, founder and president at Whitespark. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
It was back in 2016 when Darren was last on the show. I wasn't even here to be able to interview him. So it's been a long time. That was show 186, and we're very happy to bring him back on board. And I'm very sorry that we hadn't talked to him earlier. Let me introduce you to Darren. Darren Shaw founded Whitespark in 2005 as a web design and development company. However, his passion and curiosity for all things local search led to a shift in focus in 2010, as early as 2010. And ultimately, that's what the company is doing today. So these days, Whitespark specializes in local search software and services and is one of the most respected and cited in the industry. And Darren's been working on the web for over 19 years and loves everything about local SEO. Who doesn't, right? He leads research initiatives such as the Local Search Ranking Factors Survey and Local Search Ecosystem. He's also a regular contributor to search marketing publications and speaks at conferences around the globe, although locally each and every time, right? Well, Darren, share with us what we don't know from that bio. How you doing? Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. Let's see. You pretty much covered it. I don't know. That's the gist of it.
That's the entire Darren Shaw bio right there, huh?
Yeah, that's the bio. The company's grown a lot since 2016 as well. Definitely tripled employees, tripled revenue. Work with some major brands. So the company continues to grow, which is great, exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And you're out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, yeah?
Yes, very, very north, just like straight north of Montana, about 14-hour drive.
Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, it's great country up there, truly great country. I actually went up there, the border of Canada, doing the Boundary Waters canoe trips several years back in 2016, I think, as I recall. And it's just incredible country, but you're a bit further north than that. So you help out. Being up in Canada, you're still helping out so many companies around the world as it comes to local optimization, because we understand where Google has been. They've grown to actually connect and understand all the different brands around the world, where they're locally based, and it's all to drive better results for consumers. They're wanting the local mashup, and it's not doing it without understanding that the consumers are continually wanting to interact and understand their local area. How many? Can you give us some stats on? Well, before anything else, before I get in there, give us a lowdown on what Whitespark does for companies, large and small.
Sure. Yeah. So we have software and services for local search. We do citation work for sure. So business listings, we help you get listed on the most important sites. We'll clean up your listings. One of the main things that sets us apart from competition is that we just do it as a one-time thing, so you don't have to keep paying recurring fees. We have fantastic software, our local rank tracking software. We have a full agency side of the business where we do Google My Business optimization. We do website optimization, link building. So we have a full sort of SEO team as well that does SEO work for small businesses, small, medium, even enterprises. And then we have software for reputation management, getting reviews and monitoring reviews, responding to reviews. And then we also have what we're kind of put us on the map, our local citation finder software, which analyzes your business listings, your competitors' business listings, and then we'll show you the opportunities that you have based on what listings your competition has. So that's the gist of it. We have a number of different software and services, but anything to help you with ranking better in the local pack. That's what we're all about.
And it's a fantastic set of tools. In fact, one of the free tools that you guys offer out there is a local review tool where you can actually throw in your brand's address or even the brand, and it does a lookup on that brand and provides a shortened URL to go to fire a Google review immediately. I think it's a shortened URL, but it immediately prompts the user to be able to, who's logged into their Google account, to be able to review that particular property. And that's invaluable. We've used it for almost a decade, I think. It's been around that long.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic tool. You also have a tool that generates like a flyer that you can even post in your local business to be able to do that. I think at some point in time you had a QR code floating around there too, right?
So yeah, QR codes are back.
Oh, no. Say it's not
They
so.
really are. They're actually fantastic. We use them in our Google My Business Management service for all of our clients.
Cool.
What we do is we print a little card, and it says, please leave us a review on Google. And it has a short link, but it also has the QR code. The QR code just goes to the short link. And it's because QR codes were the lamest back, 5 years ago, because they weren't natively supported by the camera. You have to download an app to your phone in order to use a QR code. But now, all the modern phones, you just point your camera at it and it goes directly to the URL. So they become quite valuable. So you give that card out. Let's say you are a home service business, you did some plumbing or furnace repair or whatever, and you'd be like, hey, we'd really appreciate your review on Google. There's a little card to make it really easy. All you have to do is just point your camera at that little code and it'll take you right to leave us a review. They actually work pretty good. And so I used to make fun of QR codes. Now I'm a big believer in the value of them.
There's a book on Amazon called QR Codes Kill Kittens. Did you know that? Yeah, it was actually how to alienate customers, dishearten employees, and drive business into the ground.
That is funny. But that one example that I just gave you, it actually makes sense. You don't want to put a QR code on your truck. No one's going to try and catch it as your truck drives by. But I think it actually makes sense in that one scenario.
You're absolutely right. On business cards, one thing. Billboards, not so much. So
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So QR codes are back. So here, I want to dive into some stats regarding local search, and I want to welcome you to contribute into this space as well. Here's a few things that I have done some research on. I wanted to pull this together for marketers and business owners alike who are listening to this show. How important local search is. 97% of people learn more about a local company online than anywhere else. 46% of all Google searches are looking for local information. That's incredible. 72% of consumers did a local search before visiting a store within 5 miles. And 88% of searches are for local businesses on mobile devices either call or visit the business in 24 hours. Now, I pulled some of these stats off of HubSpot, Safari Digital, and Bright Local. One of the key things that I was just stunned by, the near me mobile searches have increased by 136% compared to last year. These are phenomenal results here, and it's phenomenal to understand how important being able to look around and be able to see where businesses are and how to interact with businesses. Give me some additional factors of knowledge when it comes down to consumers' interaction in the local space.
So in some industries, Google drives upwards of 90% of all of their business. Wow. It's phenomenal. When you need something like, let's say you need emergency towing, you need emergency lock repair. Yep. You don't typically have a trusted company. You go to Google. Now you go to Google, you type in locksmith, you type in garage door repair. A lot of these home services, it is so critical to their business. If they rank in the 3-pack, it's a massive boon in business. Yep. If they rank on page 2 of the local results, it's no business.
Oh, my Lord.
It has such a massive impact. And then the same thing in really lucrative spaces like personal injury attorney, right? How many people have a trusted personal injury attorney? It's this thing that you need. And where do you find a personal injury attorney? You go to Google. And that's really what drives so much business these days. That local pack is absolutely revolutionary for businesses when they get into it. And so investing the time to optimize for local search, and getting that can absolutely transform a business. We've had clients that they started working with us. We got them into the pack. They've been in the pack for years, and they've quintupled their business since like the early days when they didn't have any local search going to now. Like a moving company has, they now have 10 trucks and they have 40 employees now. Like they've revolutionized their business because they rank number one in that pack consistently and they get all the calls. And so it really has a huge impact on businesses when you can get that top pack.
That's fantastic. And there's some great stats and continued great stats, but I think just taking a moment and realizing what local search provided consumers during the pandemic, I really wanted to talk to you about any insight you'd have there, because I know that Google and its GMB listings really started to evolve and we actually did a report here just on the news side of our podcast about maybe 4 weeks ago, where Google was actually showing vaccination status on employees. And the Google, or I should say the local search environment, has really come to a level of assistance beyond transaction, but actually being integral in community health, right?
Yeah, and so there's this whole concept that Mike Blumenthal coined called Google is your new homepage. And that is true in so many senses. Like when people do a branded search, they search for your company.
Yep.
That knowledge panel on the right-hand side has so much information about your business. And when COVID hit, Google was very quick to roll out features that allowed businesses to communicate their COVID precautions, what they're doing for cleanliness, whether or not masking is required, vaccination being required, all that stuff is right there. So many times you don't need to go to the business's website, and Google is providing businesses with basically everything that you need to know. You've got the reviews on there, you've got photos on there. Now with Google Posts, you can communicate updates and specials and all kinds of stuff. You can have products on there. And so a lot of times people don't need to go to your website. And so Google becomes super important. And the local search ecosystem, sort of with Google as the foundation of that, is really important for communicating all these public health measures and all that kind of stuff. And so it really, Google My Business is powering so much of online business right now.
It really is, and it's being more and more of utility to consumers, and Google's realizing its space there. What an incredible, like almost like a sacrosanct space where they're investing useful functionality, useful tools, and even getting into conversion now, where forums are being tested and lead generation is being tested. The above the fold local space has always been coveted, but we're getting more value at the Google homepage, like you said, as opposed to how it's aggregating content for our own businesses. It's really being that more utility, Swiss Army knife of value there on the screen itself.
Yeah, there are people, I would say probably 70% of the businesses out there, they created their Google listing in 2015. Yep. And they haven't touched it since, and they are missing out because in the past 6 years, whatever, ever since Google kind of divorced from Google Plus, Google has been rolling out a ton of incredible features on the Google My Business listing. And if your business is not taking advantage of them, you are losing out to your competition, because now people don't need to go to your website to find out, do they offer this service? What kind of reviews do they have? It's all on Google. And so people are evaluating what business they're going to call, which business they're going to hire, right in the Google search results. They don't go to your website. They don't have to, because everything they need to make a decision about which plumber to call, which drapery shop to call, whatever it is that they're searching for as a local business, right, it's all right there in Google. And so if you are one of those people that set up your Google listing and thought that you were done, you're not done. You need to get back in there. You need to take advantage of all the features. If there's a field in Google, you need to use it. Yep. If there is a feature, you need to use it, and you need to use it regularly.
We talked right before the show regarding the demise of Google Plus. as a social media platform for Google, and we're seeing that Google My Business is now the business side of social that Google has offered up with Google Posts and all of the additional factors of communication and engagement that consumers can have, especially the messaging side of things. So there's a lot to unpack into the fields and the optimization. But first and foremost, I wanted to touch base on maybe some of the more difficult concepts or pieces of the local SEO terrain that maybe a business owner doesn't have time or hasn't understood. If they haven't done anything since 2015, you better believe the world has changed inside of GMB. Some of the things that are difficult for maybe the business person to navigate, NAP citations, trying to understand what name, address, and phone number citations really, why they're important, the presence of their Google listing, keywords being used in Google listing, sentiment of online reviews, even the number of check-ins at the locations. All these things can be relatively ethereal to that restaurant owner who's wanting to be able to get that consumer base into the foot traffic in the door. All these things maybe are a little bit outside of the common vernacular for a business owner. What are some of the first steps that you may actually you help a business owner understand when it comes down to the import of managing their GMB regularly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is a lot of stuff in Google itself to manage, and there's a lot of stuff in the broader realm of local search. Like, it's not just Google My Business. You've got your reviews to think about. You've got your website content to think about, your website optimization. You've got incoming links. You've got the citation. So it's a pretty big world of things. And as you mentioned, a small business owner is like, they're busy running their business. And so there's so much there for them to have to worry about, which is why you end up hiring someone to help you with this.
Right.
But, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, 100%, the first thing you need to do is get in there and look at your categories. The categories, the primary category in Google My Business, I think it might have been number 1 this year. Let me just look at my results. Yeah, number 1. It's the number 1. So we haven't talked about it yet, but I run this yearly survey of the local search experts called the Local Search Ranking Factors, where I get the survey participants to sort, what do you think is driving local search more than anything else, like in influencing your rankings? What is it that really makes you rank? And number 1 this year is the local search rank, is the primary category. So the primary category is hands down the most important thing to get right. So here's the great example. If you are a criminal defense lawyer or a personal injury lawyer, and your primary category on your Google listing is lawyer, you are shooting yourself in the foot really hard. And so you definitely should specialize your primary category to as closely match the keywords you want to rank for as possible. So if you're a personal injury lawyer, make sure that your primary category is personal injury lawyer, not lawyer.
Absolutely. And those categories have been refined over the years. Back to the same thing is that if you set it up in 2015, there are so many new variations of service specialization inside of GMB, right?
And they're adding new categories every month. So Joy Hawkins over at Sterling Sky, they publish this great resource. They monitor new categories coming in, and they publish a resource talking about whatever new categories Google has added. And every month there's a few new ones. And so if you go back to 2015, there are so many new specializations and categories that have been added, you might not be taking advantage of them. And so it's really important to keep an eye on that and double check your primary categories. And then the second thing that you want to do is like a really quick win in local search is the additional categories. So any other services that are related to your business that there's a category for, adding those, it's like instantly telling Google, I'm now eligible to rank for this as well. And so you can cast a wider net, rank for more terms, drive more business. And so it's really important to fill out additional categories that are relevant to your business as well.
Very good, very good. One of the things I wanted to, again, I believe the audience is probably going to be made of digital marketers that may very well be versed in a number of these discussions and these concepts. But on top of that, also business owners who come across this show and they need to have a little bit of additional baseline. One thing that is always a difficult challenge is understanding what citations are. Can you give us a quick understanding of what citations are when it comes down to local search?
Yeah, so just before I tell what the citations are, I want to explain the 3 pillars of local search.
Yes.
Proximity. That's how close you are to the person searching, right? So it's one of the major pillars that will drive local search ranking. So businesses that are close to the person searching have a tendency to rank better. Relevance, it's like, I'm looking for a tow truck driver, right? Or tow truck company. So if I type in tow truck company, they're going to look and say, is this business entity a tow truck company? Yes, I'm going to return those ones. So that's just being relevant for the terms. And you do that through your categories, you do that through the content on your website, etc. And then the third pillar is prominence. So it's like, imagine that Google has just identified, here are the 7 tow truck companies in your immediate proximity. And now they have to sort them. So how do they sort them? They sort them based off of prominence. And prominence is identified by how much information is there out on the internet about your business. And so that's like citations, which is a mention of your business, and that can be on blogs or local directories. And also links. Any other websites that link to you, they impact your prominence. And so your prominence is this thing, like lots of the businesses can get relevant fairly quickly. There's lots of work you can do within relevance to improve your relevance and increase your rankings. But then prominence becomes super important because it might be very obvious to Google what your business is and what you do, but the question that Google is trying to answer is, does anybody care? And the way they figure that out is with prominence, and citations play into that. And so a citation is a mention of your name, address, and phone number on another website.
Gotcha.
So that is the most classic example of a citation is a business listing on a directory like Yelp. Lots of businesses have a listing on Yelp. That's one citation. So that page on Yelp that lists your name, address, and phone number and other information about your business, that's a citation. Another one might be on yellowpages.com. So you've got another listing on that. These are like classic business directories.
Right.
So to optimize your prominence from the citation perspective, you should be listed on the top 30 to 50 general business directories. Yelp, Merchant Circle, Super Pages, Yellow Pages, etc. And then you should try and get any industry-specific citations. So get yourself listed on sites that are specific to your industry, like lawyerfind.com if you're a lawyer, or towtruckdirectory.com, that kind of thing. So you're going to get listed on any of these sort of business-specific directories. And then local-specific directories are extremely valuable too. So if you have something like chicagobusinesslist.com or denverbusinesses.com. These are directories that are specific to a city.
Right.
Those are extremely valuable as well. And then you're done. You don't have to do any more citation work. A lot of people are signed up for something like Yext. We talked about that in a previous edition.
Yes, we did.
But something like Yext, you pay month after month or year after year to have a subscription to have your listings on these sites. That is a concept that doesn't make any sense to me. Once your business listings are done, you shouldn't have to pay for them anymore. That's what we do at Whitespark. It's a one-time fee where we get your listings cleaned up and added to the important sites, and then you're done. You don't have to keep paying for it. And so that's the way I think people should think about citations. Just get listed on the classic directories, any industry specific and city specific, and then be done with it. And you don't really have to dig any further than that with citations. Then you get into more.
Got it.
Yeah. So you're going to increase your prominence beyond directories with getting listed in the newspaper, having local bloggers link to you, doing any kind of local link building with other businesses that you partner with. Another great one is sponsorship links. So you could sponsor a local homeless shelter or a local theater group or any of these companies or organizations in your city that are looking for sponsors, you sponsor them, you get listed on their website, and you get a link. That's another way to increase your prominence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great explanation across the board here, and understanding that the baseline of citations has to be accomplished first, and then be able to find those competitive intersects where maybe some other competitive businesses have something that you don't. Your tool actually provides that, but getting beyond the citations, because that all has to be cleaned up with consistency, right? But beyond
let me talk about consistency.
Go for it. All right.
So consistency is a bit of a myth in local SEO. And so a lot of people have this misconception because they read it on a blog post, and it's this, every other blog post has been written since always talks about this importance of citation consistency.
Yeah.
And it was born from the early days of Google's local algorithm, where it was really important to match your name, address, and phone number on your listings.
Right.
Because if they weren't matched, then it was like you wouldn't get credit for it, because Google's like, I don't know if this is the right business. It's not matching our database. And so you don't get credit for that citation. So it's like, all these citations, you wouldn't get the benefit of them.
Okay.
That was then, this is now. Now Google's algorithm is much more intelligent. It can do partial matches. So let's say your business name isn't exactly how it is on around the web, but it partially matches. Like some aspects of the name are a partial match, and it's got the same phone number. You get credit. Like Google says, there you go, this is a mention of that business. Or even if it has a completely different address, that's fine, because it can partially match. And the same thing with address. People used to go out of their minds trying to make sure that the suite number was in the right spot and everything was perfectly matched. Those days are no more. You don't have to worry about citation consistency as a local search ranking factor anymore.
Oh,
because
wow.
Google is very smart at matching your business information, and you will get credit for all your listings and mentions out there, and they will apply to your prominence within the local search algorithm.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
It's really important for people to know that, because the myth persists, and people spend money and they spend a lot of time agonizing over this concept of citation consistency, which stop doing that.
That was a trigger word I gave. That was a bait. Okay. So to double down on that, from an understanding that Google has, we're now in the space of entity SEO. It's beyond keyword SEO, beyond links, beyond citations. This is where Google is actually understanding and creating a knowledge map a knowledge graph of all the brands that are out there. And it's understanding the local references. And as you start to kind of go beyond into this concentric circle, as you effect changes outside of those citations that you mentioned, going into and getting blog references from other companies that are locally known, right? This is the optimization space. Absolutely take care of everything that you possibly can inside of GNB or citations, but go out and actually connect to other local businesses, contribute, be able to sponsor, be able to have a local orbit around other local entities that are known in this particular location. Now you're starting to tap into the knowledge graph power that Google has, and knowing that these two businesses are related by proximity. That basically builds up the value on both sides, right?
Yeah, that's some next level stuff. Like it is a work, right? So when you think about, you tell a small business, hey, you just got to connect with your local bloggers and local community. It's just like that, the mental leap to go and do that, and try and outreach and create those relationships is just a mountain of work. And so I think there's, if you can do that 100%, you are going to dominate local search. That's going to be very helpful for you. This is kind of where sponsorships come in. It's like this backdoor, quick, easy way to get some of those local connections. But there's so much you can do to optimize rankings that doesn't necessarily mean that level of work. You can definitely improve your reviews. Reviews have an incredible impact on how you rank in local results. So making sure you're asking every customer for a review, get those cards printed with the QR codes.
There you go.
Really, really work your review strategy. So every customer gets asked for a review, every customer gets a follow-up. That will have a huge impact. And then another tip is, when you ask for reviews, always ask them to mention the service that they had, because the keywords in reviews also impact your ability to rank as well. So when you say, hey, could you please do a review? They say yes. Be like, oh, and it'd be great if you mentioned that, we did your furnace repair, or you fixed your toilet, or whatever it was. So just trying to get those keywords into the reviews is very helpful. Your website content, so many businesses fail at this. They've got a simple page where they don't really describe what they do in detail. All of that, like the more content you have on your pages, your service pages, your homepage, all of that stuff really has a positive impact. A lot of businesses still have a homepage title tag that says home. You're not going to rank very well with that. Your homepage, your title tags, are very important for rankings. They really tell Google what this page is about. So you want to have keywords in the title tags. Those kinds of things are, low-hanging fruit that you can get before you start trying to build relationships with all the local bloggers.
Okay. So maybe I jumped the shark a little bit here, but that is the orbit in which we want to be able to find ourselves and our clients, is to be able to have that
amazing stuff. Yeah.
That type of connective semantic relationships there. But I'll back off and I'll pull back around to your survey here for a quick moment, because you have been doing a local search ranking factor survey for a number of years. Now, this comes from an annual survey that started with David Mim back in 2008, and you're continuing up to this day. So you're about to release, or by the time this podcast airs, you may have already released your results of the 2021 survey. You have a number of definitions and references in there that we implore our listeners to go have a look at, just to understand the kind of the ecosystem: Google My Business listing, landing pages, local pack finder, service ads, and the like. We won't jump into that right now. However, I did want to ask you regarding these results, what are some of those? Well, first and foremost, who actually takes this survey? Can you kind of break down how this is delivered and who's contributing here?
Yeah, so this year I think we have 42 contributors, participants in the survey. These are people that are somewhat names in the local search industry. You see them active on Twitter. They're researching. They're doing local search work for clients. They're testing things, trying to understand what works, what doesn't work.
Got it.
They're often speaking at conferences. They write about local search on a lot of the SEO blogs and publications and whatnot. So they're the prominent people in local search that have caught my attention, that I see as thought leaders in this space. And so I survey all of them every year, and I say, what do you see driving local search? And so the survey asks them a number of questions, and they have to sort specific factors. There's 122 factors, and they have to select the top 20 factors that they think are most important, and then put them in the order of importance. And when you get 40 of the best minds in local search to do that, and you aggregate the data, you kind of get this roadmap of what is the most important from top to bottom stuff to do in local search. And that's the real goal of it. And so the local search ranking factors survey kind of is the Bible of how to rank in local. What is it that drives rankings? And then what is the number one thing you should do? What's the number two thing? What's the number three thing? It basically creates your to-do list and roadmap.
That's fantastic. And we certainly want our listeners to go back to and check out the 2020 version as well, and do compare and contrast, because there are some changes here. The 2020 GMB was by and large the biggest factor of value and contributing into local rank, followed by reviews, followed by on page, and then links. There's and you unpacked a lot of great explanation in the survey results. What are you finding as a surprise comparing 2021 to 2020, especially? I'm assuming there's some pandemic references or some backdrop there, but what are you finding as a difference in this last year of everybody staying at home?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think that the pandemic itself had too much of an impact on the local search algorithm. So what drives local search rankings did not seem to be impacted too much by the pandemic. There certainly are changes every year, and sometimes it's just changes in perception, because we have to remember that this is a survey of opinion. It's not necessarily like,
Sure.
it's not based on some, methodology.
200, exactly.
It's
200
really
point
just-
algorithm, what have you. Yeah.
It's just a survey of what these 40 some people think, right? This is what I see in my practice of doing local search. We did all these Google posts and they did not help rankings. We optimized our categories. We saw massive ranking boosts, right? So these kinds of things, like understanding what is having a positive impact and what's not. It's all just opinion. But there were a couple of things that are worth highlighting. One of the things that stood out to me this year was I noticed that over last year, we're seeing a decrease in the importance of proximity. Proximity used to be this sort of like, oh, Google, what the heck? It's like, I would do a search for painters, plumbers, something like that. And I could tell in the search results that all of these businesses were within walking distance of me. And it's like, I'm not really looking for the painter that's on the same street as me. I don't care about that. I want the best painter in the city. And so Google was overemphasizing proximity.
Oh, wow.
And so this year, I noticed that the survey participants had dialed that back, which really triggered me to run some of my old classic searches. Because in 2017, I wrote a post on the Moz blog that said proximity was the #1 local search ranking factor. And it was based off of conjecture and, in my opinion, based off of what I was seeing in the results, that example of the painters being all within a mile. But now I'm seeing businesses from all over the city coming into the results, which is really wonderful to see, because I think Google was way overemphasizing proximity before. And now they've dialed that back. So you have to remember that the local search algorithm is always being changed. The engineers at Google are looking at results, analyzing whether or not they're useful for the users, and then fixing things when they see it. And so, sometimes it's the local search community complaining about stuff, saying, this is lame, Google, you should fix this. And sometimes they listen. And so I do think that proximity has been dialed back a little bit, which is a good thing. You certainly still see it play a huge role, but that was one of the big things that stuck out to me this year.
Fantastic. And we're all actually pretty happy about that, because back in 2019, there was the November algorithm update where proximity really trumped a lot of some well-placed content optimization on sites. All of a sudden, everything kind of shifted on its head, and we didn't have those positions that we had been investing in for a while with structural content and the like. So you're seeing it shift back a bit. We're seeing a good deal more reviews and valuable insight from customers, helping guide the algorithm back to a level of kind of quality as opposed to proximity. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's better for Google and better for users, right? So
Absolutely.
when that Google's entire reason to be is to deliver the best possible search results. Like they want to be #1 for that. And so they want to provide a good experience. As someone searching for a local plumber, they don't want, let's say the 3 plumbers that are closest to you are just happen to be the worst plumbers in the city and have terrible ratings.
Exactly.
So putting too much emphasis on proximity means bad search results. And so that's where we see things get fixed. And so it's great to see that drop in the search in the local search ranking factors, and other factors that actually do play a really critical role, like your primary category increasing. Another one that actually came up is the keywords in the business name. It's kind of like, I see Google making a positive change around proximity, but keywords in the business title, the actual name of your business, however you name your business on Google. So your business might be, FMG Law. Maybe that's the name, your official name of your law firm. It's FMG Law. Now, if you are a personal injury law firm and you go to Google and you put an FMG Law, well, all right, you probably have a chance of ranking. You really want to take it to the next level? Make it FMG Law Personal Injury Lawyers Phoenix. Like, it is disturbing how much of an impact that will have on your rankings.
Wow.
Overnight, you will go from position 17 to position 2 or 3. And it's just like, and like I said earlier, that can absolutely revolutionize a business in terms of leads being drawn. Now, that's not going to happen to you because every personal injury lawyer in the world already knows this, and they've already done that.
Right.
And so now it's not this differentiator, but it's against Google's guidelines. But the question remains, why has Google not dialed that factor back?
Right, exactly.
It's really overweighted, and it's I think it's the number 2 ranking factor. Let me just double check. Yeah, number 2, keywords in the business title.
That's terrible.
It really is terrible. And all it does is it encourages spam. So it encourages people to go out and add keywords to their business name when it's not their official business name.
That goes back to the white pages way back when. Whenever you name your company,
pizza.
Exactly, just to get it at the front of the list. I mean, as much as we're relying on the algorithm being so evolved, that just seems to be like a legacy issue of just the not even paying attention to the fact that it's not about the name, it's about the service, it's about the quality of the service, and there's so many additional points of data that they can attribute quality to. Again, consumer reviews being one of them, but even the schema deployment that you can put on a website that helps granularize and communicate exactly the specifics of a particular site's service. Now, no, that's way into the optimization side of things, but there's so many different pieces that they could bank on as opposed to the bloody name of the company. Come on.
Yeah, it's way overly weighted. I have to, it's easy to complain about them, but I think that there is a reason why it's difficult for them to fix this problem, and I think it's because of branded search. So if my actual business name is FMG Law Personal Injury Lawyers, and I type in personal injury lawyers, that whole partial matching that I talked about earlier, Google's really gotten much better at partial match. And so now they're like, oh, well, this business might be the exact one you're looking for. And so I think that it has to weight it a bit more in case that's the one you're looking for.
So it's almost like a double-edged sword, I see.
Yeah.
Got it.
Say it again.
It's almost like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think it's really, so I think that if they dialed that one back, they break something over in branded search, but then keyword search gets overemphasized. And so it's a bit of a problem for them to solve. I hope that they're working on it because it is way overweighted. Now, the interesting thing that ends up happening here is that there's 2 things that have spawned because of keywords in the business name. One is a lot of businesses are actually changing their name. So we helped one of our clients with, they have over 35 locations. They recognized the benefit of those keywords in the business name, and they did a complete rebrand. They renamed their whole business. They renamed their signs. They re-registered with all of the government entities. They updated their signage outside, their website, and then they went to Google and they changed all their listings. And it is unbelievable, especially when you aggregate it across 35 locations. Their rankings were like this, and then boom, through the roof, just like total hockey stick. And their business has absolutely blossomed because of it. And so, that's one aspect of it where you can actually rebrand to get the benefits if your business depends on local as much as many businesses do. And then the other thing is it spawned a whole new industry within local search of spam fighting, because if you have a lot of competitors that are cheating their way into the results, you can report them.
Right.
And when you get them removed, your rankings go up.
You clear the lane, right?
This is a whole new thing that has grown up within local search, the sort of sub-industry of local SEO, where people are just spending a lot of time fighting spam, like reporting it, getting businesses suspended. And so if you are inclined to just go add those keywords to your business name, watch out, because you could get monitored and reported. Google's not really policing it, but your competitors are. And so you could get suspended. And if you get suspended, it's a painful road back to reinstatement. And then you get reinstated, you've kind of got a watch on you, and you got to keep your name as it actually is.
Got it. Well, so good advice there from the local SEO Sherpa here. Be careful. I mean, if you're actually considering changing your name from an optimization standpoint, better have your ducks in a row and do it for the right reasons, not just from a optimization ploy. So we really want we obviously want our listeners to be able to jump over and watch your results, have a look at and digest all of your survey analysis. We do want to get to local SEO myths as well as some top conversion factors in the next segment here. But final thoughts, what are your predictions on local SEO going into the remaining part of this year as well as 2022?
Yeah, I think that the core algorithm, what's going to help you rank better, is not going to change too much. It's been relatively stable for a decade. The thing that is continuing to change, and this is the same prediction everyone makes every year, is more ads in the local results. So Google's trying to monetize their local results. In many industries, we have these things called the local services ads. And those are actually, we just saw last week, them coming into the local pack now, which is dangerous times.
Yeah, it is.
Imagine the whole pack becomes pay to play. That'd be great for Google. They'd make a fortune, but it's dangerous for all those people that are trying to just get the benefits without having to pay.
Right.
And then transactional stuff as well. Right now, you can already do bookings. Like you could book, let's say, your hair salon or massage therapy or anything that has kind of scheduling and booking. Yoga classes. You can book those right within Google through partnerships that they have with booking engines. And so that's a transactional layer. Google gets a little cut of that every time. And they're now integrating products with see what's in store, transactional stuff. So they want to get a cut of these sort of sales that are happening. And this is, of course, being heavily driven by the pandemic. And there's a great opportunity for Google to capitalize on, does my local shop have this product? Can I buy it right through Google? Look at that. Click, click, click. I bought it. It's getting delivered to my house. Well, now the company is getting paid, a local transaction happened, and Google found a way to make money off of that. All they had to do is just be a little bit of a middleman. And so they are definitely heading down that road. That's my prediction. More transactional and more advertising so that Google makes more money.
Yeah, they better be careful or they're going to alienate the consumer audience if they see everything at a paid level. So we covered the 2021 local search ranking factors survey that you released. We also talked a good deal about key ranking factors like Google My Business, reviews on page, as well as links, behavioral, citations. So those are a number of things that we dove into, but we did find ourselves into the space of local SEO myths. And this is what I really wanted to unpack in this segment. There are some surprises in your local survey results. We really want to make sure that our listeners check that out. But some local myths, local SEO myths, have been continually perpetuated in the ecosystem. And one of the key things we actually mentioned this last episode was citations and the consistency of citations. They got to get the name right, the suite number. No, it's not a pound. There's so many nuances that people get fixated on. But let's burst that bubble. We talked about that first segment, but really, is Google that dumb that you actually have to have everything perfect?
Well, they used to be. And that's why that myth was born from. So in the early days, it was really important to have your name, address, and phone number correct because Google, they have this like record in their database of what your business is. And then there'd be these mentions of your business out on the internet. And so if there was a mention of your business where the name wasn't right and it had the wrong phone number, Google was like, well, I can't tell if that's your business or not. So we're just going to have to throw that piece of data out and you're not going to get credit for it. Nowadays, Google's database of businesses is entity driven. So it's a knowledge graph and it's much more intelligent. So you've got the knowledge graph, you've got an entity in the knowledge graph that represents your business. And when Google looks at mentions out on the internet, when it finds these entity references out on the internet, it's like if the name matches and the phone number matches, but the address is different, Google still knows that's your business. And they can also reference it by the context. They can reference it by the website URL, all these different things that kind of come into play. And you're going to get mentions of those businesses, of your business associated with your business entity at Google. And so being exact with consistency is not a thing anymore. And even partial matching, you're still going to get the credit. And all of that contributes to your, let's say we'll call it a prominent score at Google. You now will get credit for it. So you don't have to worry about consistency anymore. A lot of ink has been written about the importance of citation consistency. And because there's such a backlog of information, it keeps carrying forward from blog post to blog post, because
absolutely.
Some new writer is like, oh, I got to write a post about what drives local search.
Can't forget about consistency.
all the other posts talking about consistency, so it carries forward. And so it's really important to realize that it's not important anymore. Google can associate mentions of your business with very small segments of data, and you would get the prominence benefits of it. The only place where I think you really need to worry about consistency is where a real human might see your information. So if they're picking up the phone to call your business, you want to make sure they call the right number. And that's like Apple Maps, that's Bing, that's anywhere that a real business might find it. Yelp, Yellow Pages a little bit, but some of these more fringy directories, don't kill yourself. Don't try to waste all that time getting the name updated. It's just not important.
That actually segues into another fallacy here, that you can be negatively affected if you are using a tracking number on your Google My Business or listings out there. Can you burst that bubble for us real quick?
Yeah, it's very related. It's like that whole idea that if you put a tracking phone number on your Google listing, then Google will absolutely disassociate all your other mentions out there, because you have all the other ones and they have the different phone number. Google's like, oh, it's over. Forget it. Get out of here.
Hey, who are you? Get out of here.
Yeah, so it's not as simple as that. And it's very easy to add a tracking number to Google My Business. I highly recommend that you do, so you can actually really see how many leads you're driving from GMB.
Sure.
But you want to try and keep things connected for Google. It is, in the end of the day, a dumb robot. And so your primary number can be the tracking number, and then your secondary number, just put your real number in there. Google has 2 additional phone number fields. Put your real phone number in as one of those additionals. It doesn't even show up on the listing, but it allows Google to say that this business entity is known by this tracking number, which is whatever, and you might not find it anywhere else except Google, and these additional numbers, which really helps to sort of allow Google just to make sure that they can associate all those other listings with you.
And that does get to the point, as a sidebar, is knowing that Google's always opening up additional fields of information to put input in. That's how they're understanding your brand, your knowledge graph more and more. So it's that unlocking of the tumbler. So you don't have to have consistency if you're feeding Google what it's asking for regularly. So pay attention to your Google My Business listing, and watch for any new potential optimizations, because that is that unlocking parameter. And they're wanting to see that type of engagement in this space. So another myth that you actually had a blog post here in March of this year covering top 10 local myths. Another one I'd like you to comment on: setting a service area in Google My Business impacts ranking. Tell me about this.
Oh, this one. I think just local SEO people were excited to see this potential. Here's how it works. So you are a plumber. You let's say your home address is your actual business address. People don't come to you for plumbing services. You're a service area business. You go to the people's houses. Furnace repair, a locksmith, garage door repair, whatever, carpet cleaning. Those are service area businesses. And so in Google My Business, you can specify service areas. You can say, I serve this zip code, these suburbs. I'm located in the suburb of Chicago, but I serve Chicago and all the other places. You can go ahead and specify all those service areas. And I think people just logically think, oh, well, that'll help me rank in those areas. Isn't that what they're for? Apparently not. Google doesn't do anything with those from a ranking perspective. The only thing that setting those service areas will do is draw a little red outline on a branded search. So if someone searches for your business and you're a service area business and you've defined those service areas in Google My Business, then it'll draw a little red outline on the map of what area you serve.
You are not setting your proximity net.
And Google's ranking algorithm is based off of the proximity of your physical location, whatever.
Right.
Even if you've hidden your address in Google, it's based off of where you verified your address. Because you can't verify a listing until you enter your address. And so that's what's happening there. And the setting the service areas will not allow you to rank better in that suburb, in that other zip code. It actually has no impact on ranking whatsoever.
All right, very good. A couple myths about keywords inside of the Google My Business listing or local SEO.
Yeah.
Keywords in the Google My Business description, as well as owner responses, making sure that they got those rich keywords in there. That actually affects Google My Business, right?
Yeah, so no, it doesn't. The keywords in the description field is a real classic one. You see a lot of business owners or even SEOs working on listings for business owners. They're like, well, if I jam my keywords I want to rank for into the description, that'll help me rank. Well, you should know that Google completely ignores the description from a ranking perspective. So it has no impact on your ability to rank. And also all the other fields within Google, there's only a couple fields that have a direct impact on ranking, and that's keywords in the business name, which we talked about last episode, which is a bit of a problem. You could get suspended if you stuff keywords in there. So, be careful with that. But it does definitely impact ranking, and your primary categories impact ranking. But putting keywords anywhere else on your listing, you put them in your services, you put them in your product descriptions, you put them in your Google posts, you put keywords in your description. You see a lot of keyword stuffing in there, businesses trying to optimize their Google listing. Those other places have zero impact on your ability to rank.
Could they actually harm, in fact?
Potentially. Google's not very good at detecting or penalizing spam automatically. Generally, the only way you can get harmed is if a competitor reports you. And I don't think Google would really penalize you for stuffing keywords in those places. So they wouldn't harm you from a ranking perspective, but they might harm you from a credibility perspective. When a customer is researching businesses and they see this one that has super SEO'd their description, it just looks bad. So it's a waste of your space to talk to a customer. If you have a customer reading that, you want to explain why you're the business they should go with. Don't add the word plumber 75 times.
All the permutations of plumber. That's the thing, is that this needs to be authentic. This needs to be communicating services, be able to respond to customers, right? Be able to share information. Those posts should very well be used the way they're intended to be, not just peppering constant service with just a tantamount amount of keyword stuffing. I think we fail to understand that the consumers are also quite savvy in this space. They're utilizing GMB as a utility, and we talked about some of the stats that we mentioned in the beginning of last segment of how much people are utilizing it. People are digitally savvy, and they can see spin, they can see spam. And you're going to be doing yourself a disservice, even if Google doesn't penalize you. Those customers probably will, because it looks like you're gaming the system. But
and it's not trustworthy, right?
No, it's not.
Is the absolute most important thing you can try to convey when a person on the internet is evaluating your business. You got a 1 second shot to be able to convince them that they want to learn more about your business and take it to the next level. Otherwise, they're just on to the next listing. Think about that. You're browsing the search results. You're making second decision as you click through. You're looking at the reviews. You're looking at the ratings. You're reading the description. And one thing can tip you off, right? As you're evaluating, then you get to the description and it's just like a bunch of keywords. You're like, this does not look trustworthy. Next.
Yep. And I mean, the judgment on consumers. I mean, these are microsecond decisions here, and the optics are really one of the key factors. Then you got to be authentic. We'll talk about reviews here in a second, but what about geotagging images? Yeah, you mentioned that in your blog post. Some people don't even know what the hell you're talking about here, but you can actually put meta content inside of your image, right? Obviously, that impacts rankings, right?
Well, no, it doesn't. You knew the answer.
I knew the answer.
Geotagging images is a new factor that I added to the local search ranking factor survey this year. And I added it specifically so we could destroy it as a myth. Because it's one of these perpetuating myths, and people have built software around it. You can subscribe to this thing that'll automatically keyword stuff your photos and then upload them to Google for you. So every image every digital image has this stuff called EXIF data. And in the EXIF data, you can add, there's like a description field and a keywords field. You can geolocate, like with coordinates, you can specify where that photo was taken. And so this is the idea that you can optimize that and then upload it to Google, and then Google will ingest that and associate it with your business entity. So like, all right, it's more relevance for those terms. That's the idea. The reality is Google strips all of that data on upload. So all these people out there pitching this as an idea that will help you rank better, it's quite silly, because Google strips all of the EXIF data as soon as you upload the image. And so there's absolutely no value to geotagging or keyword stuffing the metadata on the images you upload to Google or the images you put on your website. Zero evidence to support this. The only evidence I've ever seen are people that have tested it and saw zero impact. I've seen two studies of that. Joy Hawkins did one. Tim Calhert did one as well. And they're like, we tried it, had no impact, definitely didn't impact rankings. And so it's this thing that gets passed around a lot on the Facebook groups. There's a whole bunch of local SEO Facebook groups where people share information about things you should do to rank better in local. And that one comes up all the time. And so it doesn't impact local search. It's a myth. It's a myth that needs to die.
So 40 out of 40 local SEO experts completely disagree with geotagging.
There was one that actually thought it was a factor. But
okay, all right. Well, we won't.
I'm not naming any names.
Yeah, we won't name any names there. All right. So there's a few other myths that are out there that I wanted to get your comment on, and in no particular order. One thing in particular is claiming your website in Google is a surefire way to boost your SEO, claiming your Google My Business. Yeah. By the way, Google already knows your business, right? For the most part.
That's exactly it. That's exactly the point. You don't have to claim your listing in order to rank in local. There are, like, imagine like the best restaurants in the world. Their phone is ringing off the hook. They do not care about their listing on Google. They're already getting thousands of positive reviews. They've never claimed their listings, but they're going to rank #1 for fine dining New York City.
There you go.
Like, no problem. Google will not. You actually don't get any ranking benefit to the act of claiming. The act of claiming just opens the door for you to be able to optimize other things.
Right.
Like Google, but like you said, Google already understands your business. They've figured it out from your website or from everything that's on the web. I'll tell you this much. It's way better to get written up in every food magazine in the world with high accolades talking about why you're the greatest restaurants. Google's much smarter about that than actually claiming your listing at Google.
Absolutely.
And so they can understand your business just fine, especially if you are a prominent business and you're doing all the other things right. Google just picks up on that. So claiming the listing will allow you to optimize a few things on the listing itself, but it in itself is not a ranking factor.
Which also brings me, again, to a sidebar of all these phone calls that businesses get. And it's a spam series of calls, but so many, I mean, it must work because so many people are probably falling prey because we keep on seeing those phone calls come through. They're either saying they're a Google partner or something like that, that claim they can claim your listing for your benefit, and you may be missing out on such opportunities. Google knows your space, knows your brand, knows your business, and Google, like you said, is opening the door whenever you do claim the GMB to be able to communicate and interact with customers to a greater degree. It's not an optimization play. Conversely, deleting your listing will not remove it from Google either, right?
Yeah, no. You can remove it from your own account. So it's like, I have my Google account, and I've claimed my business listing into my account. And then if I go into GMB and I say remove this, all it does is it removes my ability to edit that listing from my account. But it stays on Google. It's very hard to get a listing actually taken down from Google, unless suspended or it violates the guidelines. And so you don't have to worry. There's no real way to take it out. And same thing with Yelp. It's very difficult to get a listing removed from Yelp because Google is like imagine you were one of the top restaurants in your city, and Google wants to show consumers, people using their search engine, the best restaurants. So it's very hard to get a listing removed.
All right, so there's some myths right there. Another one here real quick, and I know you're going to want to contribute into this. Nobody reads reviews anymore.
That's a myth. Oh, everyone reads reviews. Yeah, I think reviews get a lot. I think that there is a increase in skepticism about reviews because of there's so much fake review business happening. It's happening on Amazon. It's happening on Google, and Google does a very terrible job of analyzing reviews. There's a brand new company that I'm really excited about called the Transparency Company, askfortransparency.com. And they let you run a report on a business and it does all this insane analysis to identify whether reviews are real or fake.
Oh, wow.
And so it's super valuable from a consumer perspective. If you're trying to say, can I trust this business? You can run a report. But it's also really valuable to check your competitors, and then you can report them and get the reviews removed if they're all fake. And so that's a really cool thing. And I think we need more of that kind of transparency in the review space. But as a general rule, I think people still heavily lean on reviews when they're evaluating businesses, and Google reviews in particular. They look at the businesses, they read the reviews, they try to determine whether or not this business is trustworthy and whether or not they've solved their problems. You can now search reviews. You can actually search within the review content. Like, let's say I'm looking for drain cleaning. I want to see like drain cleaning, or let's say I'm worried about whether or not the people came in, they were respectful. Did they wear those little things on their feet when they came into my house or whatever? So you can actually search reviews for specific things. And I do that all the time when I'm evaluating businesses.
And that was a bit of a, that wasn't disingenuous, but it is a myth. But I think I was wanting to steer this towards businesses that don't put that much weight in reviews because there is such a value there. And there is a myth.
Incredible.
From a business perspective, or maybe moreover, kind of the owners of these businesses that, I don't read reviews, therefore nobody does. And there is a bit of a myopic view whenever you're talking to clients or businesses that they don't understand all the different data points, and they also sometimes don't understand their own behavior when it gets down to the interaction in the local space. So I just wanted to actually tee that up because there's a lot of things in the GMB side that are incredibly valuable, and that type of interaction, not only the review but the interaction of the company to that review is incredibly valuable. Talk about that.
It feels like we're rolling into the conversion side of things now.
Absolutely.
Because the reviews absolutely are an incredible ranking booster. So getting more reviews and getting keywords in your reviews, hands down, is one of the greatest things you can do to improve your local rankings. But reviews are have this beautiful additional benefit as a conversion factor. So if you are evaluating businesses and like number 1 has 30 reviews, number 2 ranking business has 40 reviews, number 3 ranking business has 1 review, number 5 ranking business has 175 reviews.
Right.
You, as a consumer, you're browsing, you're like, oh, let's look at that business. You're zoned in on that, and you will now read the reviews and get a sense. And not only do the review count itself draw you in, but they also sell you as the consumer, because it's like, that person had the exact same problem I'm trying to solve, or that person also loves spring rolls, and wow, look at all these reviews talking about their spring rolls, whatever it is, right? The reviews become your sales team, and they absolutely sell your business. And so investing in reviews is absolutely one of the most important things any small business or medium or large business can do to both increase rankings and conversions from local search.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, is that this is the conversion segment of the show. And I want to double down on the review side, because you also there's something more there than hey, I had a great experience here. You have now brand alignment with the consumer base that participated with this company. You also have another layer as you review the reviews. You see the response from the company. Now you also get another sense of the personality, the values, the mission, all the factors that you used to just bank on as people would walk into your service, into your business. Then you could expound upon them, right? It's right there, and the consumer advocacy. And we also understand how difficult it is to get a positive, as opposed to people that scream to high heaven whenever something doesn't go their way. I always have the anecdote of a review I read that was literally all caps, and the lady went to a steak restaurant and flat out hated the fact that they were selling steak there, that they wanted some fish or some vegetable, something or other. And it was literally, okay, lady, you realize that you were there at a steak place.
Yeah.
I mean, so we understand that there's that noise in the space, but the consumers who are actually giving positive reviews are doing it because, I mean, it's not a reactionary, wow, as a warning. How often, I mean, it must be a ratio of maybe 10 to 1 that people actually step out and actually advocate on behalf of the business in a positive way. And what a stellar space that is to be able to see the company respond to those positives, as well as seeing how they respond to the negatives as well. You get a full understanding of the demeanor, the personality of this business, and that brings you in, that draws you into their orbit and understand that, wow, these guys recognize the consumer space, recognize how valuable it is to treat customers, and this is how they're going to treat me, right? Well, that was long-winded, but
there's a couple of things to touch on there.
Yeah.
One is this idea that you mentioned where if you don't ask any of your customers for reviews, you're going to skew potentially to the negative. And that is because the people that are motivated to leave a review are the ones that had a bad experience.
Right.
So people that go into your establishment or they get a service from you, if they had a great experience, they're usually like, that was a great experience. Good job. I give you my money. I'm going on with my life. And so people that had a really negative experience, those are the ones that want to go and complain on the internet. And so you can tend to skew towards the negative if you never ask for a review. If you start asking every customer for a review, you motivate people that had a positive experience to start adding their positive reviews to your profile, which has that really significant impact. And then the other thing to touch on is that owner response. That when you connect your Google My Business listing, this is one of the benefits of claiming your listing, is that you'll now start getting alerts when people leave your review. Then you can respond to those reviews. And when you're responding to reviews, you are telling future customers that you're a business that cares. If you have 75 reviews on your listing and the owners never responded to them, it just looks like you don't care. Whereas the next listing might have 50 reviews, but you can see warm, grateful responses from the owner saying, oh, hey, Jerry, really great to serve you the other day. I really appreciate you taking the time to leave us a review. We'd love to work with you again. Those kinds of responses add a humanness to your listing. And it's really hard to get that on the internet. And so it's super valuable to respond to every review, and it becomes an incredible conversion factor. Your business will convert more than the one that's not responding to reviews because you show that you're a business that cares.
Very good, very good, and even to the degree of how a company responds to a hater that's out there.
Exactly, yeah, super important
how they handle, because we've known horror stories. I mean, what was that company that was a cake company or something like that? That was several years back, and they just got excoriated online because somebody in the restaurant. Or the owner had a bad day, responded negatively, and the entire world just blew up. Anti whatever this cake company is, I can't remember. Yeah. But you also, I mean, as a consumer, you can see the dignity or the balance that a company can have whenever they do respond to a negative. And would you recommend responding to a negative review? Obviously, not advocating inflaming the scenario, but would you recommend actually response?
Yeah, earlier, I don't know, years ago,
Sure.
it was recommended to always respond to any negative review. And do you have to respond to the positives? People were like, yeah, whatever. You don't have to if you don't want to. Now the recommendation is to respond to all of them. But the negative ones are absolutely more important to respond to. If you only had to pick positive or negative, definitely respond to the negative, because that is, and the advice is to not be defensive in your response, because that just doesn't come across well. You're writing that response not for the person that wrote the review. You're writing that response for everyone that's going to read it later, all your future potential prospective customers. That's who you're writing that for. And so you need to come across as level-headed and willing to help. You're like, I'm really sorry you had this experience. I want to see if we can make it right. I'm the owner of the company. Here's my cell number. Call me. Let's see what we can do to fix this situation. This is not what we're advocating in our business. We really take these matters seriously. We care about getting things right. And so even if that person who left you the review is a total nutter and is all caps, freaking out about the fish because you're a steakhouse, whatever it is, right? You still want to present yourself as a very level-headed business person that cares about that person's opinion. I'm really sorry you had that experience. Let's talk about it offline. And that's another key. You want to take the conversation offline. You don't want to get in this back and forth with them in a public sphere. Right. You want to get them on the phone and talk them off the cliff. And sometimes you can turn a negative into a real brand advocate. And I've seen that happen with a lot of companies. It's like, I had a bad experience, but then I talked to Angela, the manager, and wow, she really cared about me. She made it right. She fixed the problem. And now I love this place. I go there all the time. And what ends up happening is the customer can edit the review. And if you get that turn shift, if you're having the conversation with them, it's always a good idea to suggest, hey, I'm really glad we were able to sort this out for you. Would you mind editing your review? Would you be open to editing your review? Because most times they will say yes if you've actually solved the problem for them. Right. And now you've got a 5-star review. And so they can just edit it and turn it into a completely different scenario. And so there's value in responding to present yourself to the world as a caring business. And then that responding can often lead to turning things around for the customer.
You know, we're in a space now with the digital platform that we've got. And we certainly have seen a lot of horror stories in social media where people really should not have had that platform, but they did anyway. Businesses are now subject to that magnifying lens of behavior that we've never experienced before, and to social media, absolutely, and to feign that it doesn't exist, right? Or that because your particular behavior as a business owner doesn't encompass leaving reviews, you can't be that naive. It's there, and there's an entire consumer response that people are paying attention to. The wake that you leave behind is as a level of permanence that you can't delete a listing and try to solve that issue. So this is part of the new consumer experience, and you have to have that engagement. I know we put a lot of time into this, but it is one of the key factors of a local SEO ranking is to, and more importantly, conversion. If people can see how well you respond digitally, you see that there's a one-to-one relationship that's now happening in the business sphere to the consumer. So with that, I mean, as consumers, we're empowered. So your blog post that you had regarding top conversion factors, and we're going to put all those in the show notes as well. Proper hours set on GMB. What an incredible factor that is. And you wouldn't think about it, but boy, people navigate their entire life making sure that GMB is correct. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, the proper hours as a conversion factor matters, because if you had them incorrectly set, and it said you closed at noon every day, but you didn't close until 5, Google will show that as you're closed. And so that'll definitely have a negative impact on your conversions. And so that's where the hours comes in. Other conversion factors that are really key are just being really comprehensive with what you fill out in Google. A lot of people, I talked about this last episode, where they created their listing in 2000 and whatever, and now they haven't touched it since. They're like, oh, well, I have a Google listing. I don't have to worry about it. Well, Google has added all these new features, And businesses that are taking advantage of those features, that are really building out their profiles, they stand out from the competition. And that becomes a massive conversion factor, where it's like, well, this business is just name, address, phone number. It doesn't tell me anything about the business. I'd have to go to their website if I wanted to learn more. Next. So then the next one, it's like, wow, look at all these photos. Look at all these great reviews. Whoa, they got products. They mention all their services. They've got a very compelling description. Oh, look at all these posts that they've been doing over the last few months. I can learn about, oh, they've done this special. Now they've got this cool thing. Wow, look at this community involvement that they have.
Yep.
You can learn so much about a business when they have taken the time to fully complete their Google listing and manage it. They're regularly adding new stuff, products, new specials, whatever's going on this week at the shop, they've got that up as a Google post. Those are conversion factors. And then there's a side benefit too, that once you start utilizing all this stuff, they come up as justifications in the local pack itself. The local pack has these new little blue things where it's like they can pull it from your Google posts. And so keywords in your Google posts are a myth from a ranking perspective, but they can be a conversion factor, because they can pull in as justifications. They make your listing stand out. The whole concept is making your business stand out on Google. And the reason that's so important is because so many shoppers looking for local businesses are not clicking through the websites anymore, because Google is so comprehensive. And that's why this whole idea of conversion rate optimization for your Google listing is super important. So if you've been ignoring your listing for years, you better get in there and optimize it.
So how do you measure conversion rate for your Google listing? Because we know traffic to a website, and we know call tracking, obviously, and we also can see impressions and foot traffic. We can see those type of factors, but do we have a really good handle on a conversion rate of your listing? From a general sense.
It's not perfect. You can measure actions in the GMB Insights section. So in Google My Business Insights, they talk about actions, which is clicks to driving directions, clicks to call. That's only mobile. Clicks to your website. You can see that those are conversion factors that kind of give you a sense that a consumer saw your listing and took some kind of action. So that's one benchmark. Better would be to add an actual call tracking number to your Google listing. You can do that if you add it as the primary number and then put your real number in as a secondary. It'll have no negative impact on your SEO. But that's probably the best way you can measure conversions from GMB, is using a call tracking number through a company like Call Tracking Metrics or CallRail. Get that number on your Google listing, and you can really go into the dashboard and see how many calls did we get from Google My Business this month, last month, month before. That call tracking number is hands down the best way to measure conversions. And then a final thing that you want to do is you want to add UTM parameters. It's a bit technical. You should look it up.
Sure.
Claire Carlisle has a fantastic guide and a little worksheet where you can do this for UTM tagging any of the URLs within Google My Business. And then you can, if you want to get more technical, you can then analyze that through filters in Google Search Console to see how many people were coming from your Google listing to your website. And so those are the best ways. Call tracking for sure is the best way to track how well your Google listing is converting into real business, because the call is your best benchmark for
absolutely. Inside of Google Analytics, how is traffic from Google My Business associated? Is it referral traffic, or is it was it tagged as an inbound source?
Yeah, it's not tagged unless you add those UTM parameters.
Exactly. Yep, there it is.
So that's why it's valuable and important to add those. And then in Google Analytics, you can then see that as one of your campaigns. You can see Google My Business, so you can track traffic to your website. And that's a fairly strong indication of a conversion, because it's a bit of a next step, right? It's like a person's browsing the results. They've looked at your listing and they've been compelled enough to click to your website to learn more. So that's helpful. What you really want to know is, did they pick up the phone and call you? Or I like the driving directions one too. It's really valuable. If people actually drove to your location, well, that's a pretty strong indicator that it was a conversion.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of granularity that you can dial into, but we want to make sure that everybody takes care of the basics first to flesh out every parameter that Google offers you, and also respond and engage inside of that platform. Google is not rewarding you for the amount of activity that you put into your GMB, but it is certainly paying attention to if there's a tiebreaker and you're seeing one particular GMB platform that is active and one that's stale, right? It's going to lean into how versed you are, right?
The conversion features, the features that you're going to optimize for conversion, like Google Posts and a good description and products and services, they impact conversion. But they actually may have a side benefit from a ranking perspective, because we do believe that behavioral signals do drive local search rankings. And so if Google sees that this business is continually getting lots of clicks and lots of photo views, lots of engagement on the Google posts, those are signals that Google uses to say, this business tends to be more attractive in our list of 20 businesses than these other ones. And so we're going to rank that one a little higher. And so it's one little signal that they use. It's not the end all be all of how you're going to rank in local, but it does provide a tiny little bit of a boost. So the conversion factors do them for the conversion benefits, but they can have a secondary impact on the rankings as well, albeit small, I would say.
Make sure that if you're doing your social media, if you're pushing into Twitter and Facebook, you always come back around and either repurpose or creating new authentic postings inside of your Google My Business. Make sure that you're keeping people aware of what's going on, and that sometimes does get forgotten if the business is trying to stoke its Facebook listings and Facebook engagement. My gosh, what if they ignore Google My Business? That is the first line of visibility.
Go ahead. You can post on Facebook all month long and you'll get 5 people seeing it. All those people posting on Facebook are wasting their time.
Yeah.
Put your posts on Google. People are going to actually see them there, and they will potentially drive conversions. Now, it is a different channel. It's a different world. And so you wouldn't necessarily take your Facebook posts and put them straight on Google. You could. It's better than nothing. But Google posts work really well for offers. Like if it's like we have a special, because you got to think of the intent of the person looking at that data. A person in Facebook isn't looking to, if you show up in their feed, they're more interested in the social aspect.
Right.
On Google My Business, they're looking for a deal. They're looking for, do they have this special thing? And that's where your Google post should speak to your services and any specific offers you have. That's what really performs well in Google Posts.
Very good. Very good. Well, invaluable information, Darren, and you've always been a great a bastion of information, and focusing on the surveys each and every year gives us a really good understanding of the churning seas inside of local search, because it is churning and a good deal choppier than traditional organic as well.
Lots of change.
There's a lot of churn, a lot of change in there. And when Google leans into something more into that platform, it's doing it for some very, very specific reasons. If it comes down to conversion or authentic engagement with consumers, it's positioning different companies based on that behavioral activity, right, in front of consumers, because it knows that its tools are what consumers are looking for. So bar none, I mean, Facebook's not leaning into it like that. Twitter's not leaning into it like that. That's all messaging, that's engagement, in the different spaces. But from a utility standpoint, to understand the business hours, understand what the service offerings are, understanding what posts are, and what offers the businesses are actually providing, man, that's where Google has really shown beyond any of these other platforms. Would you agree?
100%. It's like 80% of your business can be driven from Google if you're in a local space, right? Even some industries, 95% of your business is coming from people running queries and looking for your business type. And so getting the top rankings can have a massive impact, and people that are not taking advantage of Google My Business are really missing out.
Well, thank you so much again. Let's wrap up with what we can do for you. What can we promote regarding Whitespark this week?
Yeah. So if you would like any assistance with this, Whitespark has a full agency side, our GMB management service, which we can also manage your website and build links for you. We have our Google My Business management service where we will do all of that conversion stuff for you. We work with you and optimize all your website and your Google listing to drive way more conversions. And so businesses that don't have time, that's one of the things that we do. And please also definitely check out the incredible resource, the local search ranking factors. Our new version will be published by the time this goes live. And you can find that at whitespark.ca/local search ranking factors. And I think you want to put dashes between each word. Local search ranking factors. So yeah, you can find it on our website at whitespark.ca.
Or click the link on the show notes. We'll help you.
Do that.
Well, any final thoughts for our local SEO practitioners or businesses that kind of live and die by local visibility?
Yeah, final thoughts. I feel like we covered most of it, really. I would say we didn't talk about internal linking on your website. That is a huge one that we're really seeing an increase in this year, where if you internally link every opportunity you get, making sure that anytime you mention a service in your content, you're linking that to those specific service pages. If you don't have the service pages for every service and subservice, do that first. And then throughout your website content, internally link, particularly on your homepage. Internally linking in the content section to those pages is one of the things that we're really seeing a boost. A lot of practitioners this year are talking about the benefits of internal linking.
Very good. Very good. Well, Darren, we thank you so much for your time today, and keep on the good work on doing these surveys, because we need that reference guide. Some fantastic practitioners of local SEO. Joey Hawkins, we can't say enough about her, and Mike Blumenthal as well. I mean, these are stellar individuals in the local SEO space. So watch, and you also name everybody who's actually participated as well, right?
You want me to name everybody?
No. Well, but you do regularly in the survey, right?
Oh yeah, they're all in there. Yeah. So all of these sort of top practitioners are in there, and it is the best of the best. The people that really care about local search, that are studying it and understanding it. And so that's why the survey is so powerful, because you're getting the aggregate, everyone's brain power into one amazing guide to how to rank in local search.
And just imagine how many rabbit holes we ran through on this particular show. Can you imagine that 40-fold?
It's a big resource, yeah.
You are the cat wrangler on this, because I'm sure there's a lot of conversations about data that could be had with that many people in local SEO. Well, thank you again, Darren, and we want to make sure our listeners track you down on the socials. So on Twitter, you're Darren Shaw with an underscore, right?
Yep. Yep, gonna add that underscore
right at the end, not in between, right? So Darren Shaw underscore. Who's got Darren Shaw?
Hey, he's a realtor. He's a realtor in Ontario, and he's got like 10,000 followers or something. So, and he's active, so he'd never give it to me. And so
man. Let's take him. Let's locally SEO him to death. Come on.
When I first started Twitter, I thought it might help me with my SEO, so I keyword stuffed my Twitter name. I first started as Edmonton SEO.
Oh, gotcha.
I was early though. I could have gotten Darren Shaw if I had jumped on it.
Well, you got Darren.Shaw on Facebook and Darren Shaw Whitespark on LinkedIn. Go track Darren down and tell him what a good job he's doing. And certainly go check out Whitespark, because they're doing some fantastic things regularly, and he got some really great free tools that are there, as we mentioned in the first segment as well. Thanks so much for your time today, and we'll certainly want to lift you up and get you back on the show a little bit more frequent than 5 years. My God, Darren.
Well, I love doing it. Happy to come back anytime.
Fantastic. You're more than welcome. More than welcome. Thanks so much. All right, be sure to check out the first segment of our Darren Shaw episode posted last week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web on YouTube. And if you're really feeling up to it today, drop us a quick review on iTunes, because that's how we get fed in the podcast algorithm. Thanks to our sponsors, Site Strategics and Site Strategics. Make sure you check out all of our must-see videos and much more over at edgeofthewebradio.com, edgeofthewebradio.com. That's it for this episode. Be sure to check out the news each and every week as we tackle SEO news, digital marketing news of the day with Morty Oberstein from SEMrush. So from all of us over at Edge, be safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We will talk to you later.